All right, everyone. Thank you all for joining us tonight. We wanted to cover a couple of things tonight. Of course, normally we don't do a Skype on. We don't do a Skype on Saturday night because I'm wanting people to get ready. You know, see the word the next day. But I think this is kind of a part of it where we want people to kind of be prepared to receive the word for tomorrow. Um, so, so we're wanting to. So, did everybody get a chance to watch the video? Everybody got a chance to watch it?
Yes, sir.
All right. Um, have any of you noticed, just at any time in your life, it just seemed like, well, I'm gonna just say about me. Of course, I share with you all the whole thing about the heart attack that I had a couple of years ago this month, in fact, and what all took place with that and what the Lord has showed me. And of course, since then, it's kind of been a uphill battle of getting back to my normal self. I'm not completely there just yet. Riding in the car, no matter where we go, it seemed like if I'm going above, and so most of you have been on a fair ride, and you know how your heart feels when you're on a fair ride, how it just feels like it's gonna skipping a beat if you. And so if I'm in a car going above, I would say maybe 30 miles per hour, that's the way I feel all the time. I feel like I'm just dropping all the time. And, after a while, you kind of get used to it, but it's still the same, feeling like I'm on a fair ride. So when I'm in a car, that's what it feels like. And my wife is not a wild driver, and neither am I. But if I'm in a vehicle and it's going above 30, uh, it's going to feel like I'm in a fair ride. I feel like I'm, on and so, um, of course, I've been praying about that. Of course, my heart doctor gave me a clean bill of health as far as, they did a test last year, I think it was, stress test, and told me my heart is real healthy and things like that. There are no blockages. And I think they did the number. I can't remember however they do that, but basically, I still got a very good heart, like a very healthy heart. And but that feeling, I guess, just my heart just kind of getting used to different things. And so the other day when we went to Franklin, Tennessee, to get that third camera that we have, my heart felt like it was skipping a beat, and it was that way for about, I would say, maybe about 2 hours of the ride. And it's been a couple other things outside of my heart, and so I was praying about it, and like, Lord, what in the world is going on? And of course, I did. It took me a little bit to catch on. Every time I was on YouTube, I'd come across Pastor Darby's message. Your problem is witches. And it's not a coincidence that he named that exactly that way. Your problem is witches. And so, I within the last, I say, few weeks, I made a vow that I was going to start sending that witchcraft back to where it come from. And so then the Lord told me he's got a list of names that he's checking off. And whenever he tell me something like that, it means folks is about to start leaving here. That he's not, we're about to start. If I'm sending it back, woe unto you if you're the one sending it to me. You see, you gonna find out the hard way. you'll find out the hard way. And so I wanted us to talk about this message and witchcraft in general, but so that we'll know how to number one, how to deal with witchcraft attacks, and number two, to make sure that we're not the ones sending attacks. And I think Pastor Darby laid it out very well concerning um, it was a statement that he made that kind of it went along with what I preached a few years ago about um, wrong intentions. Intentions. In other words, people's intentions sends out um, spells and witchcraft and things like that. And one way, pull that up so I can remember how he said it, because I want to. He said, so demons need an atmosphere of darkness to operate in. And so Satan conditions people with attitudes that sustain darkness. Now, I want us to keep that in mind. He said that Satan conditions people with attitudes that sustain darkness. In other words, that will maintain it. And he went on to list a few things: trauma, rejection, unforgiveness, bitterness, jealousy, strife, those types of things. And so what that makes me wonder, and I want us all to think about this. What attitude has the devil conditioned us with to sustain darkness? In other words, me personally, now this is just me, I don't believe Christians ought to have bad attitudes. Not if eternal life is dwelling on the inside of you. Christians shouldn't have bad attitudes. That at no point in life. Don't mean that you don't have a bad day. It doesn't mean, and I mean when I say a bad day, I mean just things may necessarily not have gone the way you thought, whatever the case is. That's understandable. But we shouldn't have a bad attitude. A bad attitude is always witchcraft to me. Always. It's always. Yeah, I know it's witchcraft involved. When people have bad attitudes, I know that it's witchcraft involved. That's just, to me, that's just always been a given, because you don't have to be saved to not have a bad attitude. I've come across a lot of people that weren't thinking about serving the Lord and was just as pleasant all the time. That was just them all the time. They weren't. If they did ever have a bad day, you wouldn't know about it. And so when I see believers with attitudes, it let me know that the devil is using them to bring about an atmosphere that's not conducive for the Holy Spirit to move in. And so, I spoke at the beginning of this year that this is a new day in this ministry. And if we're going to see God operating in this ministry more in his power and his authority, that's not just good news. That's not just people being healed. That's people, witches, being shut down and done away with. And that's just the way it is. And so when we come together for church and to worship and things like that, I want us to be sure that we're coming with a right attitude, that first of all, we're not operating in witchcraft, but also to make sure that witchcraft is not overcoming us in any kind of way. If you boil everything away, you will, and really think about why you're going through what you're going through, you will really understand that we really are in a spiritual war, and that the things that come to our brains, the things that come to try to make us depressed or feel bad or whatever the case may be, these things are a direct result of a spiritual attack. And if you don't know that you're being spiritually attacked, the devil have already won. He got you. If somebody punch you in the face and you can't see him, but your fix for it is just taking Tylenol for the pain of getting punched in the face, you're already defeated. The fix isn't dealing with the pain of the issue. The fix is to stop letting the devil punch you in the face. That's the fix. And that's one of the things that we want to bring out. Just about everybody that's ever, I don't know, I'm gonna say everybody that's ever become a part of this ministry at some point or another, especially when they first get here, they're having second thoughts. Is this God's will? You know, does Brother Bolden really love me? Does he really care? You know, people deal with, so, you know, I know I'm not bothered by people having those thoughts because I know where they're coming from. You know, it don't make me go to the drawing board and think, well, do I love people? And are they supposed to be here? You know, I understand that it's an attack, but I also understand that as a believer, I can't fight that attack for you. You have to fight that attack. You have to be able to withstand it. I can't, the same way I can't go to heaven for you. If the righteous are scarcely saved. So when I get there, I'm gonna be happy and I'm gonna be standing at the gates cheering everybody else to get in. But I'm not gonna have any righteousness left over to help you out. This ain't a rollover thing like AT&T had, where your minutes roll over. If anybody get in there, you're gonna scarcely get in there. And so I can't believe for you during those attacks. Everybody is responsible for their own spiritual warfare. Can't nobody fight somebody else's warfare for them. Everybody's responsible for their own spiritual warfare. And so we're going to have to learn to stand, you know, and not, we're in the army of God. And we're going to have to learn to fight this devil, you know, and learn that he's not just sitting on the sidelines hoping that you just get discouraged one day. He's responsible for bringing that discouragement. He's responsible for the little pains that you get in your body. He's responsible for the frustrations that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. You know, I remember Pastor Mel, do you remember his name? There's a pastor, I can't remember his last name, Pastor Mel something. He was on the show one time, and he was talking about spiritual warfare and how the Lord had allowed him to see in the spiritual realm. And he said that he was having heart problems one time, and he didn't there was no reason for the heart problem to be there. And so he was praying about it one night and went to sleep. And then when he woke up that night, he said it was a man, but it wasn't a man, but it looked like a man. But the man was supernaturally tall. You know, men aren't normally that tall. And he said, but it was a man standing on the side of his bed, and he had a long fingernail or something sharp coming out of his finger. And he said the man was just standing there on the side of his bed, you know, above him, and just had his finger just pointed down through his heart. And he asked him, well, what is that? And he said, the Lord told him, this is the spirit that's troubling your heart. Now, I want you to think about that. So when I heard that story, I thought about what was his name? Mel Bombs, I think is his name. But I thought about what all that takes for that to happen. So the spirit, apparently, when Pastor Mel was walking around, the spirit was just walking around with him, with his finger stuck, you know, that whatever that was coming out of his finger, just stuck in him, just wherever he was. You go take a shower, the spirit's there with the finger there. Wherever he was, you go use the bathroom and you go driving, the spirit is somewhere around you with the finger stuck there. And basically, when he saw what he saw in the spirit realm, he was able to make that spirit move. Now, this kind of goes with the story that I've shared about my lung condition, what I was dealing with years ago when I first moved to Tennessee. How I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital, and I had a vision one night that it was a spirit leaning into my side, and that went on for about a week. I didn't know, I didn't know what that was. I just thought, well, maybe I didn't, how sometimes you can do something, you can bend the wrong way, and you can pull a muscle in your rib cage some kind of way, and it can affect your breathing. So that's what I thought was going on. But this was a soldier. The Lord showed me that it was a soldier. He was dressed in fatigues. He had his head leaning into my side, and I was giving a message, telling somebody something that they'd asked about in that vision, and then I looked at him leaning into my side, and he sat up when I looked at him. And he said, are you okay with me being there? I said, yeah, that's fine. And he just went ahead and leaned back into my side. And so what the Lord was showing me was he stayed there because I allowed him to be there. So when I woke up or come out of that, I understood then, oh, so I just need to speak the word. He has a right to be there as long as I'm not telling him where to go or to leave me alone. And so I spoke the word, and just in that instant, he left. And so this is spiritual warfare, brothers and sisters. At that time, I didn't think to ask who sent him. But, I want us to think about what Pastor Darby was saying, that whenever we're dealing with some kind of spirit, somebody in their flesh has sent that spirit there. Somebody in flesh, because demons, they're not lawful here in this world, no more than we're lawful in their world. So when they come here and they're doing their bidding, they need the will of somebody else to do their bidding. And this is where the bad attitudes, the trauma, the rejection, the unforgiveness, bitterness, jealousy, strife, these are the hallways that the devil and these spirits travel down to get to where they're going. And so that's something for us to think about, so that we'll make sure that we're not opening up a door for an attack against somebody, and to make sure that when we're being attacked, we know that we're being attacked, and then we're finding out where this attack is coming from, you see. Now, I want to say this. The reason why the Lord tells us to love our enemies and to do good to them that persecute us and things like that is, here's the thing. So if, let's say, for instance, I'm under attack. If I'm under attack, and then I find out and the Lord revealed to me who it is that's attacking me or who's sending that attack, if I'm not careful and I get bitter against them because of the attack, the devil no longer needs their bitterness. Now he has mine. The devil no longer needs their unforgiveness. Now he has mine. And so he can ride on my stuff now. And so now, even though the witchcraft started elsewhere, now I'm the one basically that's doing it to myself. Because all the devil needs is strife, bitterness. He don't care who it come from. You see? And so I just wanted to take that a step further. That's the reason why we're supposed to forgive. That's the reason why we're supposed to do good to them that spitefully use us, pray for them, and and things like that, and love our enemies, because it's to combat what the devil want to do when they decide to give up, when they decide to let it go. Okay, so I've been hating you for 5 years. I don't know why, but okay, I'm over it now. Okay, so they're over it. They done moved on. But how did that affect you? Now, are you upset? Now, are you bitter? Are you full of strife? Are you walking in unforgiveness and things like that? Because if you are, you just gave the devil a free pass, to continue on doing what he was doing in your life. And so we want to nip these things in the bud in all of our lives. I want us to think about this. Most of us know somebody who has no good intention towards us. And when I say good intention, I mean God intention, if that make any sense. I could say that my mother has good intention towards me. She want me to be the best I can be. She might want me to go to college. She might want me to just do different things that will make my life good in a natural mind. That's a good intention. But if my same mother don't want me here in Tennessee, but want me somewhere else, now I'm dealing with somebody's bad intention. If that makes any sense. And that's all it takes. That's all it takes. Not just a good intention towards somebody wanting the best for you. I think most people would want the best for you, but do they want God for you and God's will for you? Anything outside of God's will is a bad intention. And people open up the doors to send certain things your way. So say for instance, you got a mama in Maine somewhere, in the state of Maine, and they're saying, I really wish my daughter or my son would. I wish they would rethink being a part of that ministry and just come on home. We got a church right down the street. We belong to our whole life. I wish they'd rethink that and come home. With that thought, they're sending demons your way that's going to trouble you in that same manner. You're going to start feeling this longing now. All of a sudden, you're going to start going through, man, you know what? Maybe I need to go home and visit. Man, I miss my family. You see, the devil work on both sides. And you're not understanding where this is coming from. And if you entertain that long enough, pretty soon, subconsciously, you're going to start making a case to go back wherever you come from and live. Well, where did it start at? Somebody's good intentions, but not necessarily God's intentions. You see, so these are things that, brothers and sisters, we have to think about. That these things that's coming to us, it's not just falling out of the sky somewhere. Somebody's sending them, and we have to know that, because we've already lost the war if we don't know we're in a war. Somebody that don't know they're in a war, they're gonna lose it. That's just plain and simple. So we have to know what we're dealing with. And we have to understand this. Everybody is suspect. Anybody that can speak against God's will is suspect. Anybody that can carry an attitude is suspect. And that's the way we have to be. When the Lord tells us to love our enemies and to put away malice and anger and those things, you know why he's telling us that? That's not just because he don't want you all charged up and want you to be nice and sweet. He don't want you operating in witchcraft. You see, that's what that's about. That's less about your little mood and you going off to yourself. Because see, the way we do, we get our bad attitudes, we get in our funky moods, and we just figure if I just stay in my room and just be to myself, nobody will know about it, and I can work it out in my prayer closet whenever I feel like giving it up. That's not the way it works. The devil you can go dig a hole and climb in it and cover yourself up in it. If you in there with your bad attitude, the devil's he's got a right now to be in our zone and in our atmosphere. He has a right now to be there. And so he don't care where you are on earth. He don't, he does not care whether or not you gonna try to work it out in your prayer closet, and things that don't bother him at all. Just hold on to it for a little while. Just hold on to it for just a split second so I can go bother this person who you got a bad attitude with. You see, that's what he cares about. You have to be careful that you are not opening up the door for the devil to do his bidding in this world, because he needs a body. And so when the Lord tells us in his word to do good unto them that spitefully use us, to pray for our enemies, and those types of things, he's telling us that so that we ourselves aren't operating in witchcraft. And whenever the other side over there decide to stop operating in witchcraft, we're not carrying it on because of our unforgiveness or because of, the way that it affected us. Let's think about it this way, and then I'll let you all talk about it. Let's think about what kind of person we are as individuals. Let's think about what if I know what makes you react. Let's think about something like that. What makes you as an individual react? Are you going to react because somebody is doing something? Or and so what? Let's say, for instance, what if I'm just bumping into my wife, just constantly bumping into her? But this is just happenstance. We're just bumping into each other. Would something like that aggravate you? Or would you get more aggravated because you know that they're trying to aggravate you? Now you have to think about what kind of person you are. Are you the type of person that they're doing it? You don't know if they're doing it on purpose yet, but you know they're doing it. Do you get aggravated because they're doing it? And you can let it go because that's just life? Or would you get more aggravated if you knew, okay, so you're doing this on purpose? Here's the thing, if we're spiritual minded, we're supposed to be able to know the devil is doing this on purpose. And the purpose is to get me to carry on the atmosphere that he needs to stay in my life. You see, these are the things that we have to think about. There are some folks that are not doing that on purpose. They're just missing you at home. They sincerely miss you. And they just want you home, whatever the case may be. And then there are some folks who's doing it on purpose, purposely doing witchcraft. And you have to ask yourself, how do you respond to that? Really, the answer should be the same on both sides. I'm not gonna let it get to me. The devil ain't got nothing in me, so I'm not gonna let it get to me. Devil, I see you, whether you doing it by accident or you doing it on purpose. Either way, you know the devil's doing it on purpose. You see, either way. So you have to think about how you respond to things. And because the object is to get you caught up, you see, to get you caught up. And of course, we living in a spiritual world where spiritual warfare is taking place. You want to make sure that you remain on the right side of things and do things the way that the Lord have called us to do it, so that we don't get pulled into some stuff that we're gonna have to, spend the next few years working out. You know, because maybe we were caught off guard, but maybe because we just um, are self-entitled. And I tell you, brothers and sisters, self-entitlement is dangerous in this walk with the Lord. Because self-entitlement will tell the devil, you don't have a right to do that. But the devil is self-entitled too. And as long as he's got your bad attitude, he has a right. You see, he has a right. You see, you think about it. The Bible says Job was a righteous man, a perfect man, and he walked upright before God. But God gave him a right to test him. God gave him that right. So we're gonna have to remove self-entitlement out the way. It's not about, you know, um, listen, brothers and sisters, it's not about if we're gonna be attacked, it's about when. You're gonna get attacked. And no doubt about it. But how long and whether it's gonna prosper, that's up to you. That's the good thing about this war. It doesn't have to prosper, you see, and it doesn't have to be prolonged, you see. Faith is what gives us the ability to withstand the fiery darts of the devil. You see there? All right, so now I want to just open it up if anyone have anything they want to share about the message and what they got out of it.
All right, greetings, brothers and sisters. One thing that I was thankful for and the wisdom that you just shared for us was not getting bitter when we discover who sent the attack. And it takes just thinking about how it takes the Spirit of the Lord for us to do that. The Spirit of the Lord isn't with us, then bitterness can set in. So just being very grateful for the Spirit of the Lord and that wisdom as well. Just once we figure out who it's coming from, not to get bitter, to be vigilant, to love that person, but at the same time to be aware that they're a tool of the enemy. And I was grateful for the wisdom that you provided. The good intentions don't equal godly intentions. To me, that was very powerful. And I was very grateful for that as well. I was just reminiscing on when we first joined the ministry, in particular, just the attacks that came upon me when I initially joined the ministry, and what you said in regards to that, and how it's up to us to work that out, and how God actually makes a way for us to work that out. How you were saying, you got to do that and be able to deal with that on your own. Because I've never been a member of a ministry before I joined this ministry. So when it first initially came, I know it was not me, my own wisdom or knowledge, that I knew I was under an attack. I know I got a heavy attack when I first joined the ministry, and we were planning to go to that trip to visit your brother's ministry. And I just knew, I said, this is something from the other side. And, I just got to push through it and keep my faith in the Lord that this is where I'm supposed to be. But it was something else, it was really something else. And I'm grateful to the Lord that he made a way for me to know that and to prove my faith and to persevere and push through that. So some of the things I've been noticing lately is when you start recognizing those attacks, for example, like the random illnesses that occur. And now now we know through training and through the word that these are attacks. So then what the enemy was doing with me next is saying, okay, I'm going to hide behind actual, physical ailments that you really did have in the past. So it's like step your game up. So I remember when the house next door burned down and I inhaled all that smoke and was out there in that cold and my lungs were bothering me. And I brought that to the brothers because my lungs were like, man, they were kicking my butt. And I just assumed like, yeah, you ate all that fire. And that's around the time it happened. So I'm thinking like, okay, so this is natural. This really, that smoke you inhaled, those toxins, that really did affect your lungs. But when I went to the brothers about it and I didn't get that immediate healing, I was like, okay, hold up, something's up. This might, okay, because it lingered. It lingered and I endured, but I didn't have to. So I suffered. I'm thinking, okay, let me examine myself. What am I, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm out of order that I can receive that healing. And then, I examined myself and I made some confessions and it was still there. I'm like, okay, like this is an attack. And, I got a lot of witches mad at me right now at work. So I'm like, okay, this is an attack. And then I prayed against it. I ran, really, really a rough prayer against that, commanding that to leave me and for, to be healed in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Is gone. So just the fact that I had accepted, yeah, you breathed in all that smoke and this was the same time and this was a natural situation. He just, he creep in like, all right, I can't get you with this random thing or that random thing anymore. So I'm gonna hide behind some old stuff or even something that's new that you're gonna naturally think. So I thought that was something to be aware of, and I would share with the brothers and sisters to be watchful for that. Also, another thing, whenever my son is about to get a breakthrough and get where he needs to be as far as his place and being obedient to me and our relationship, he'll always have a real bad stomach attack, real bad. And, I was getting on him about that today, about not telling me about it until after the fact, because it's happened twice. And each time he falls into deep rebellion. And like I was telling him, like, listen, the last time he was with us, it happened. And listen, buddy, you eating the same food we're eating, you're drinking the same water we drinking. Our stomach ain't hurting. This ain't natural. You ain't eating some bad Mickey D's, homeboy. Wake up and smell the coffee. Somebody's attacking you because you're here and you're in your right place. And it's time to get in the fight and stop taking this abuse and, get where you're supposed to get in the Lord and send it back to that individual. And like we learned, then be watchful, see who's falling out, and then you'll know. Then you'll know. So I'm very grateful for this discussion. Very grateful. And just knowing that when witches can't get us, they come for our children. So just, being very watchful of our children and knowing what's going on with them and teaching them to be aware that we're enemies of the kingdom of darkness. And we know the enemy is a bully. And when he can't bully us, he's going to come for them. So just training them up to be ready as well. So I'm very grateful for the leadership that you provide us, the rugged and rough mentality and teaching that we have to be ready and we have to, can't be liabilities. We got to carry our own weight. We got to carry our own weight, and we got to, another thing that came to my mind as well is if these attacks are happening, step it up at the intercession, make sure that, we're praying for our spiritual leader. Let's do our job. And, these things that we need to step it up because these attacks shouldn't be as consistent if we're on one accord and we're doing what we're supposed to do about guarding our leaders and guarding ourselves. So I'm very grateful for this conversation, grateful for this message, and thankful.
All right, anyone else? One thing I want to say, is nothing is, I had to, one of the first lessons that I learned after I started preaching, especially when I went back to Louisiana, moved back to Louisiana in 1995, I had a vision that I was standing in a room and a cousin of mine who's a preacher, he was praying in this room and there was a veil around him, like a sheer curtain all around him. And it was a light in that room. And when I say light, I mean it was the Lord was in that room. And he was praying, and I knew what he was praying for. And I also knew that he had received what he was going to pray for, what he was praying for. I already knew that was an answered prayer. So I was standing there thinking, why is he praying that? He already has it. It's already his. Why is he praying? And when I was thinking that, then the angel of the Lord appeared on side of me. And he told me, although he has it by faith, he still has to pray. He said, it's not automatic. You still have to pray. And then he said, basically, I don't know if he said it with his words or if I just knew that I was supposed to pray for something. I prayed for 3 things. And that day, those 3 things back to back came to pass. Back to back. I'm on, somebody called me. That was an answered prayer. As soon as I hang up the phone with them, somebody else is contacting me. 3 things. The 3 things that I prayed for, they happened back to back. What the Lord was teaching me in that was that nothing is automatic. Just because something is God's will don't equal you're not having to run across the devil and you're not having to fight for God's will. And so it could be God's will for you to have something, for you to do something, for you to do great exploits for him, whatever that may be. But you have to know that there's going to be a war to obtain whatever it is God has for you. It's not just going to be automatic. You know, there's a spirit realm that you're going to have to cross to get there. You know, we saw that in that movie, Pilgrim's Progress. You know, that's what the movie was about, a spiritual war. You know, and all this was playing out in his life. And we can't be lazy Christians in this walk with God. We're going to have to. There's something, I'm telling you, the Lord showed me some great things. But I tell you, brothers and sisters, we're in a war, and those great things comes with a fight. You all remember the story that I've shared with you all most recently in that part of the book where I was saying that I was really going through a very hard time in my life, and I was just praying and telling the Lord, you just come get me. I'm just done. You know, you can come get me. I done seen enough. I've been preaching for quite a while. I'm ready to go home now. You can come get me. And you know, you all heard me tell that about the vision that I had about the train, and me being at the train station, and the Lord standing a few feet away from me and and talking to me, and He said, "If you want me to come get you, I'll come get you." So what that let me know was, if I'd have said, "Okay, yeah, come get me," I wouldn't be sitting here talking to y'all. You see? So what I was going through, I didn't realize it at the time. I was going through spiritual warfare. And because I didn't know it was spiritual warfare especially on that level, my break was, okay, Lord, I'm tired. Come get me. You see, but when you know it's a spiritual warfare, you don't tell the Lord, come get me. You say, send reinforcements. Build me up, Lord, in my faith. Show me something that's going to encourage me. Give me some strength. I need some more weapons. You know, I started off in this war with a 6-shooter, but the day of stagecoaches is over. You know, now I need an AR-15. You see, now I need something. The devil done stepped his game up. He ain't pistol packing no more. You know, he's got Tommy guns. You see, so I need something to be able to fight on this level. That's what you do. You see, that's what you do. You step it up that way. You ask the Lord for reinforcements. You know, and you know God is sending. Now, I want to just share something with you. Jesus Christ was led up into the wilderness by the Holy Spirit to be tempted. He fasted fasted for 40 days. He fasted and prayed for 40 days. When he was done fasting and praying, he was probably at his weakest point, naturally so. And the devil came and tempted him. You know, if you're the Son of God, command this stone to be turned to bread. If you're the Son of God, you know, jump off this pinnacle here, because the Bible says that he won't let your foot be dashed against the stone. If you're the Son of God, well, why don't you just bow down and worship me, and I'll give you all of this. Now, here's what I want you to understand, brothers and sisters. The Bible says, see, we think of it naturally so. But let's think of it spiritually so what was taking place. These were thoughts that the Lord was having. These were thoughts that he was tempted. Think about it. He had just got done fasting for 40 days. He ain't around food nowhere. He know, okay, it's gonna be a while before Walmart open up. You know, I'm gonna have to walk 10 miles to get there. They ain't delivering no more. So what do I need to do? Oh, there's a rock. Let me turn this stone, and if I'm the Son of God, I ought to be able to turn this stone into bread. That was his temptation because he was hungry and he wanted to eat. But he understood, no, it is written, man should not live by bread. In other words, now he knows I'm in a spiritual war. This is the devil trying to take my life because you're not supposed to eat solid food after you fasted for 40 days. Because if it don't kill you, it's going to make you think you're about to leave here. So, no, this is the devil trying to take my life. I'm in a spiritual warfare, and this is how I'm going to fight with the word of God. It is written. You see that? So, all of these things, what we're reading about in the Bible, that was the Lord's spiritual war. So the Bible says that after he endured the temptations, that the angels of God came and ministered to him. You see now, the angels of God came and ministered. In other words, they came and ministered to him. They built him up and they helped him, along the way. And so we see that also in Elijah's day, how he had turned and ran away from Jezebel. And in his moment of discouragement, he's sleeping, and when he wakes up, there's an angel there to cook food for him. You see, what was it? The angel, he was there to help him in his spiritual warfare. So whenever we feel an attack, whenever we feeling discouraged, we don't give up. If you don't know that you're being attacked, that's going to be your next go-to is to give up, if that makes any sense. But if you know you're in a spiritual war, and then you know how to pray, okay, Lord, this ought not to be. And so your word says this. You see, your word says this. And so I need this now. See, that's the way you handle it. It's amazing how things change for us when we know what to do and how to handle it. If that makes sense, it's just amazing to me how when we know how to handle it, God is saying, okay, you now I can come through for you because you handled it exactly the way I wanted you to handle it. You see that? And so, all right. Anyone else want to share?
I know I was truly blessed about what was being said in that message. Just a reminder that we in a spiritual war and how that should be on the forefront of our brain at all times. That we're in a spiritual battle at all times, and not to get complacent with that, and to remember that the devil is constantly plotting against us. That it's a never-ending battle, and how we as believers need to make sure that we are praying against those things and not, like he was just saying, not giving up, and also um, wanting to know why these things are taking place, asking the question of why, and not just, laying down and getting discouraged. And also, what stood out to me in the message is um, how we get so common with witchcraft. We just think it's this supposed to happen, or this is normal, according to these statistics. So everybody go through this, but that's not the case. Everybody don't go through, whatever those things are, especially with, um, you having thoughts. Like I think he brought up in one of the messages, you know, thoughts of, man, I wonder if the man of God loved me. Man, I wonder if my wife loved me. I want to know if my husband loved me. Those spiritual attacks, and, we need to be, battling against the devil. And for me personally, um, just not being afraid to confront the devil when it comes to those spiritual warfare, and not just asking the Lord to remove whatever I'm going through, but actually confronting the devil, praying what I need to pray to relinquish his attacks. And I think also what else he said in that message too was how else we can get complacent is with our loved ones, not seeing them as as a witch. But if it was a stranger to us, how we would see it for what it is. But with our loved ones, we don't see it as witchcraft. And I know that was very profound for me because, you will see things in your family. You like, oh, the thought will come there, the Lord will bring it to you and show it to you, but you would dismiss it because nah, that's cousin so and so, or that's auntie, or that's mama. So we can let this one slide. But if we was to see it with somebody else, like, no, no, that's the devil. We'll see it for what it is. But so just being watchful in those areas as well, not making sure I'm not allowing those things to slip through conversation, and yeah, just not allowing those things to slip through in conversation. Make sure I stop it at the door, especially with the subtleness of what you was just saying earlier about. So when y'all coming back, I hear that, and I'm like, no, the Lord moved me here. I talk against it, but I don't pray against it the way I need to because I know that's spiritual attack. So just being mindful of those things. So that's all I want to share for right now.
I want to just share something, especially with you sisters. Um, um, when you're under a spiritual attack, and this is for all of us really, your brain and what you know have to override how you feel in the moment. So the word of God and your brain have to override how you feel. Now, this is why it's important for us as believers not to be led with our emotions. Not our day, we're supposed to command our day. That means if listen, brothers and sisters, there are times, how many of you ever slept a whole night, you slept all night, and you wake up still not feeling like getting out of bed? You still feel like, I don't feel like getting out of bed. Well, you can get to the point where you don't get out of bed if you just gonna go by your feelings. But you know what? On your nightstand is a bill that you just opened yesterday. So some kind of way, your brain is able to override how you feeling. Let me go ahead and get this money. Let me go ahead and clock in, whatever the case may be. And so that's the way it need to be in our walk, in the spiritual walk. Our brain need to learn to override. We have to learn to allow our brain to override how we feel. You ever notice how sometimes you don't feel like doing something, but if you override it and you just go ahead and do it, you'll be fine. Now you feel like doing it. When I was sick with Legionnaires' disease back in '97, I hadn't eaten for I would say for probably about a month and a half because I got tired of eating and throwing up. I couldn't drink water without throwing it up. I would drink it, and less than 2 minutes later, I would throw it up. So, you get tired of throwing up, you just learn not to eat. Now, if you've ever fasted for maybe, I would say, more than a week at a time, then your body learn not to have an appetite. You can lose your appetite where you no longer have a desire to eat food. And that's where I was. I was over food. I felt like I could have lived the next 20 years without eating food. And so I was perfectly fine with that. I just figured, well, I don't have an appetite no more. Whenever I guess when I get 100% better, my appetite will come back. And one day, my Uncle Tar, he had called me because he knew I was in the hospital, and he was asking me, what did they prescribe for you? What kind of medicine did they give you? And he asked me this. He said, "Are you eating?" And I said, "No, sir." And he said, "Why not?" I said, "Because I don't have an appetite." I said, "I guess at some point it'll come back." He said, "No, it won't." He said, "You're going to have to eat. And that's how your appetite is going to come back. You're going to have to eat first." So, I can't tell you how crazy it is to have not eaten in a month and a half or so, and you forcing yourself to eat, but you don't want to eat. But I ate, and sure enough, I did that for a few days, and pretty soon my appetite came back. And that's the way it is in this spiritual walk. You don't go by how you feel. You go by what the necessity is. You allow your brain to override how you feel, and when you do that, you do what you're supposed to do. When you do that, that's when you all of a sudden now you got the grace to do it. Now you're in the mood to do it. And you could think within yourself, I'm so glad. How many of you ever thought that? I'm so glad I went ahead and got up and did this. I didn't feel like it, but I'm glad I did and got it out the way. I'm glad now, you're looking at your finished work thinking, man, that's good. So this spiritual walk isn't about waiting until we get in the mood to do stuff. But when we are faced with that, then it's a spiritual attack. Does everybody understand what I'm saying now? If we're waiting to get in the mood, we're not going to be in the mood. It's going to always be something. It's going to always be something getting in the way of it. So we have to step out on faith and do those things with our brain. Now, sisters, this is what I'm talking to you about. This is the reason why we own a graveyard across the street. Because our great-grandmother, she did what she felt like instead of what was in her brain. When the devil first came to her, he told her something that was contrary. And she understood that. And so she said, no, the law said if we eat or look at it, we're going to die. If we eat it or touch it, we're going to die. And the devil said, you're not going to die. And so now he's moving into her feelings. And so now that's what had her operating in that manner. You see how the devil went to her first instead of to Adam? Because Adam was logic all day long. God said it. I believe he's God and he means what he says. All his world was spoken by his word. So sure enough, if he's telling us in the day that we eat thereof, we're going to die. I believe he mean that. No, I don't. So I know I don't. I'm not going to eat of that tree because I believe God meant what he said. See, so if you operate in the realm of feelings, you can always override what's logic and what makes sense. This whole world is catered to the feelings of people. That's all that's in this world is feelings. The lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. All that's based on feelings. All of it. What I can see naturally, what I can smell, what I can hear, what I can taste, what I can touch. All this world, that's all the devil. If you realize that, the devil only got 5 senses to get you through. 5 of them. And you may say, well, Brother Bolden, what about unbelief? All unbelief is what your eyes haven't seen yet. In other words, what you can't touch yet. That's where your lack of faith comes in there. You see? And so if the devil can get you in those 5 senses, he's got you. That's why the Lord gave us a 6th sense, which is faith. So we have to learn to override these 5 senses and understand, you know what? I don't feel good today. For whatever reason, I feel down in the dumps. If you ever have that feeling, you have to know it's a depressed devil sitting right next to you, getting you to feel that way. Does everybody understand that? You ever notice how when people feel down in the dumps, they don't go out and do something. They're going to sit right there in the same seat where their butt print is and continue to be down in the dumps. They ain't going to move. I'm going to sit right. Somebody, Lord, please send somebody to cheer me up. If you go out and pluck a piece of grass out the ground, you're going to feel like you've accomplished something in life. But that's not people's natural reaction to being down in the dumps. They just going to look at the blade of grass and think, man, I sure wish somebody would do something about it. I'm too depressed to get up and do something about it. So that's the way people operate. You ever notice how it's hard for the devil to get you when you up moving? When you up doing something for the Lord? It's hard for him to get you when you're up moving. You just sit down for a while in the same spot and not be meditating on the word of God. You meditating on something. And oftentimes the devil is sitting right there with you, trying to get you depressed, trying to get you to feel bad. Does everybody understand what I'm saying now? I remember last summer I told this story about how he went to a zoo one time, and they had a smaller monkey. It was two monkeys in a cage, and they had a smaller monkey in that cage, and they had a big monkey in that cage. And the big monkey was a terrorist to the smaller monkey. All day long, he said, the whole time we're at the zoo, that big monkey is just chasing that small monkey around, chasing him, chasing him, chasing him. And he said he talked to one of the workers, said, "Man, this is wicked. Why y'all got that big monkey in there chasing this small monkey? Why don't y'all put him in different cages, in different, And he said the zoo worker told him that's the way we keep the small monkey alive. He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Because the small monkey has a tendency to get sick. So we put the big monkey in there to chase him around. And as long as he's running around and being bothered, he's not going to sit in one spot and get sick. He's going to move around. He's exercising. And because he's doing that, he stays well. We don't have to worry about giving him shots and whatever we have to give him for medicine. The big monkey keep him alive and well. And and so how do we get spiritually sick? Just sitting in the same spot, just looking at the same part of the wall, just wishing and hoping. Brothers and sisters, this life is meant to be lived. And the devil, he moves in on people worshiping hurt and people worshiping pain and just remaining in that same place, whatever despair they may be going through. Y'all remember that part in the movie? In The Pilgrim's Progress? No hope. No hope. You just sitting there in that cell there, just saying that all over constantly, no hope, no hope. And so that's what the devil wants people to be, in that place of no hope. If you don't have any hope, then he's got you. You're defeated already. And so we just have to understand what kind of warfare we're in, brothers and sisters. First thing the Lord wants us to have is some kind of hope. And he give us hope by giving us things to do, and for his kingdom. And we have to realize that, that nobody retires in this. The devil don't look at how many stripes you got up and down your arm and think, okay, so now you passed 65. I'm gonna leave you alone. I'm not. You don't know. I ain't nothing I can be able to do with you. If the Lord told the devil today, devil, you're not gonna be able to take anybody else to hell. Everybody else that's from this point on that's living is gonna get saved, and they're gonna be living for me, and ain't nothing you can do about it. The devil wouldn't tuck tail and leave, because his name literally means tormentor. Going to hell is just half of the reward for him. The other half is him tormenting you while you're here. So it wouldn't matter to him. Well, he don't care how saved you are. God might tell him you ain't gonna get nobody else to go to that lake of fire with you. It wouldn't bother him at all. Do they know that I'm here with my finger stuck in their heart or in their lung? Do they know my finger is stuck in their kneecap with arthritis? Do they know that? Okay, well, if they don't know that, I still got some business here. You see? So that's what his name means, is tormentor. So you have to ask yourself, how has he been tormenting you? Has he been successful in it? And what is your plan of action moving forward? You see? All right. Anyone else want to share?
Yeah, it was this message. Your problem is witches. It was a very powerful message. That was preached. To me, it seemed like it just took my understanding of just being a believer to another level of as we grow in the Lord, it just seemed like this is another level that I believe I'm sincere believe I'm a beginner in this. I didn't really pay it no mind like that, but understanding how, I used to hear Pastor Darby say he would pray 2 hours and 3 hours, and at night I'm like, what? Why you doing that? And you know, he just say because he been through it, he been through the stuff. He not reading this stuff out of a book. He been through the stuff, and even said that he even has some family members in Louisiana, and I know how they get down in New Orleans. They think witchcraft is part of the church, you know, and and you know, I didn't, you know, coming up here, just born and raised in witchcraft, not knowing, you know, just what's going on, and just finding out, you know, people in my family doing that stuff. You know, I didn't see no black pots in the middle of the floor nowhere, but still, you know, doing witchcraft and you know, just stuff like that. And so, you know, to me, I'm just grateful for the wisdom of it. I don't understand everything about it. I just believe it with my whole heart, and you know, now I feel like I got another weapon that the Lord have gave us to, you know, because I would pray, but I wouldn't pray I wouldn't, um, what do you call it? I wouldn't do spiritual warfare. I wouldn't, you know, if I'm going through something, I wouldn't send a, you know, I wouldn't send a text, you know, I wouldn't know where to send them. I just would cast it down or whatever, and not really taking it 100% seriously. I'm just doing what I'm told. I ain't gonna say not seriously. I took it seriously, but not knowing the power behind what's really going on, but just casting it down, and you know, just that's all I was understanding. Just, okay, well, when something comes, I cast it down, and that's it. Just leaving it at that, but not going any further. You know, and so to me, this adds another weapon to, you know, not just me, but I guess all of us who have taken heed to what Pastor Darby was saying about the witch. You know, our problem is witches, and I guess to be aware of that. And so I just got one question about that. You said, you know, I believe what the Bible says. You know, we ought to bless those that curse us, you know, or despitefully use us. But what does that mean? How do you balance that and sending back whatever, you know, sending whatever back that came to us? How does that work?
Well, the way it works is you send in whatever spirit was sent back to that person, and especially if they're the one that sent it. Now, here's the difference: did they send it with bad intentions, or was they just in a bad mood without the intention? If that making sense. Like some witches, they're all witches, but some folks are witches just by default. They're not witches because they just fallen into witchcraft, if that makes any sense. But some witches are purposely sending spirits your way. And so when that's the case, it's gonna fall on them. Whatever it was they sent to you, it's gonna fall back on them, and they're gonna reap whatever it was they sent. Those chickens are gonna come home to roost to them. So in that, even in all of that, you still pray for people. If that makes any sense, you know, you have to understand that, because again, some folks are just they don't know they witches or operating in witchcraft. They just think, well, I'm in a bad mood, I got a bad attitude, I don't like what you just said, whatever the case may be. But it's not our job to know whether or not they intentionally done it versus just knowing that they did it. However it happens with them, you'll know whether or not it was intentional. If that makes any sense. If it was intentional, if they sent the devil out, the devil's gonna come and collect his due, because he has a right to do whatever he was sent out to do. You see, that's the reason why I said at the beginning of this, the Lord told me he's taking names and he's checking names off. If folks witches on purpose, they gonna find out what they dealing with for real, if that make any sense. And so I'm gonna share this with you all, and I just want to say this. Somebody sent something to me. A relative of mine sent something to me it was a preacher. It was a TikTok video of a preacher talking about having 3 and 4 and 5 wives, and I'm guessing mocking me, me being remarried, if that makes any sense. And so when I saw that, it bothered me. I mean, it really, really, really grieved me. And I thought, okay, Lord, I'm gonna let this go. And I said, if they sent this with the wrong intention, then let it be on their heads. Now that's the way I prayed. If they sent it with the wrong intention, let it be on their head. And when I said that, I was relieved of it. You know, I knew that it was a spirit sent my way, but I didn't know whether it was intentional or not. I just told the Lord, if it was sent with bad intentions, let it be on their heads. And that was I'll say maybe about 2 or 3 months ago that happened. And I want to say it was been about 2 weeks now. I got a text message saying that this person's fiance had died. And that was it being on their head. So I knew from that it was sent with bad intentions. And I don't want to say a whole lot about it because, you know, I'm planning on uploading this to YouTube. But we can't control whether or not somebody's sending something intentionally, you know, and with bad intentions. But I believe that we need to send that stuff back and let the Lord be the judge of the stuff, if that makes any sense. You know, and I say, what is life to the Lord? You know, when he made himself a body, he only spent 33 and a half years in it. He could have lived to be 120 if he wanted to, 1,000 if he wanted to. But he spent 33 and a half years because to him eternity is more important than this world, see. And so sometimes that's the way those things play out, you see. And you know, we just it's a new day. I'll just put it that way. And we better let's examine ourselves, you know, to make sure that we are not operating in any kind of witchcraft, you know. It has been my experience that the people that are the closest to you are the ones that the devil try to use to get to you. And we have to be careful that we're not dragging this ministry down, that the devil is not using us to drag this ministry down. When we hear the word, let's grow by it. You know, when we hear the word, let's grow by it. And because other than that, we're just being used by the devil. You see that? We're being used by the devil. So let's make sure that we're growing by what we hear, that we're bringing a right atmosphere with us. Let's make sure that we're not providing the darkness that the devil needs to operate in. You see, let's make sure we get to the place where we can be corrected without bad attitudes about it. Because I'm telling you, I'm sending stuff back, and I don't know how you gonna feel, but I know I feel a whole lot better. But when I tell the devil to go back to where he come from, whoever sent you, you go back. You see, I feel a whole lot, and I sleep at night. You see, so let's just make sure you ain't on the other end of that prayer. And I put it that way, because if you are, I'm gonna know about it, because you're gonna be coming and asking for prayer. You prayed for me. Oh, okay, so you were the one. See, let's not do that. Let's make sure that we are doing what we're supposed to do concerning hearing God's word. You see how important it is now to have a right attitude about everything, how to just receive God's word and things like that. All right, so Brother Pujo, does that answer your question now?
Yeah, sir, that was excellent. I had one more thing. I don't know if it came to you or not, but if it did, is there anything in the Word of God that I guess pertaining to what we're speaking of? You know, I know there's many examples of sorcery and all. Just you know, just I guess something to go to in the Word, if that makes sense. If we going through that, and there's just anything in the Word that come to your mind.
Concerning what?
I guess this whole this spiritual warfare that we have, that just like I said, I feel like this is another level of learning, of teaching, that I'm a beginner of, and a beginner in, and just having the Word of God there. I don't know if anything came to your mind.
You said about spiritual warfare?
Yes, sir.
I mean, outside of what I've already shared concerning what Jesus Christ had to deal with?
Okay.
Like, is
Yes,
there
sir.
anything in particular like that you may be thinking about?
Um. Not anything particular, but I was just wondering, because I know sometimes the Lord may give you scriptures about stuff like that. Like before you even tell us anything, the Lord may take you to something. I was just wondering if the Lord took you somewhere in the Word.
Well, I'll share this part with you. So the Lord tell us to pray for our enemies and love our enemies. That's at the top of spiritual warfare. Love is at the top of it. That's the reason why love is at the top of the list when it talks about the fruit of the Holy Spirit. Love is going to always be at the top, because if you're operating in anything outside of love, no matter what you're doing, it can be, the devil can attach himself to it. One thing the devil cannot attach himself to is love in that manner. God's pure love, you see. And so one thing that comes to mind is Saul and King David. King Saul and King David. King David loved Saul. And we see the witchcraft is taking place. The Bible says that an evil spirit was sent from God, and it vexed Saul, King Saul. But look at what happened. David's love for Saul got him to play music for him with the anointing of God there, that caused that evil spirit to leave King Saul. So that was one example of warfare, of spiritual warfare. That's what was taking place there. You ever notice? I don't know if you all know this or not. Music plays a big part in spiritual warfare. Always has. Music plays a big part in spiritual warfare. You just depending on what you're listening to. I remember when I was in Tulsa and I first started fixing computers, I had a lady come by my house who was a witch. I knew she was a witch. We went to college together, and I just knew by how she was dressed all the time that she was a witch. And I remember I was seeing, I think she's got to be a witch. And so one day she asked me if she could, if I would fix her computer for her. So she brought her by the house and I fixed it for her. And she came by to pick it up, and she sat down and she talked for a while. And when she left, I literally felt something sitting on my shoulders with his arms around my head like this. And I mean, to me, it might as well have been a child sitting on my shoulders, like with their legs straddled across me like this, with their arms just my head in the headlock like that. It literally felt like that. And I sat there and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. And then the Lord instructed me to put on some worship music. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I put on Fred Hammond, that double album, that double CD that he had. I put that on, and I would say, and I continued to pray, and within 5 minutes it was gone. And then I began to pray for this lady. Her name was Susan. I began to pray for her, that the Lord would save her from that witchcraft and get her out of that. And it was maybe a few months later, she had come by and she was telling me her testimony that she was in a parking lot in Walmart. It was a man of God holding a meeting in the parking lot in Walmart. And he had his stage, his platform up there, and he was up there preaching, and folks was giving their life to the Lord. And she went up close to the platform, casting spells. Well, he saw her and he called her out. He knew what she was there to do, and he called her out, and he cast the devil out of her. And she gave her life to the Lord that day. And last time I talked to her, years ago, she was on fire for God. But she was telling me in her testimony, she said, John, she said, I've never had, ever since I've been a witch, I've never had to stop at a red light, never. She said, it didn't matter how it might have just turned red. If I'm driving my car, I can make that light turn green. She said, I've never had to stop at a red light. And I asked, I said, so how did you get into that? How did you? She said, Catholicism. She said, my family were Catholics, and we just grew up in witchcraft. So witchcraft became the norm for me. So, they coming down the aisle with the smoke and all of that, after a while, that's just a part of life. So she said, Catholicism, my family were Catholics. So, love is at the top. Love wins witchcraft. That's what we got to have it. King David loved Saul. And I tell you, love is what allowed him to overcome that witchcraft. The devil was trying to get to King David through Saul. I want you to think about it. He kept tackling, kept doing stuff against him, kept throwing javelins at him to try to kill him and all of that. And King David would run out, and then he'd come back and play some more music for him. All of that, and then after a while, he just had to leave his presence altogether. The whole time he's chasing him. And King David is letting them know, hey, I got you. Hey, you see, I got your sword here. I could have cut your head off. I could have, but just please, I want to live. Leave me alone. Well, the devil wasn't going to leave him alone. As long as God had rejected King Saul, there was nothing King Saul could have done. He was going to succumb to whatever was coming. And so what happened? The same murderous spirit that he had for King David, it fell back on him. You see that? It fell back on him. The same thing that he wanted to do to King David, it was sent right back to him. See? It just, so our job is to love people and to pray for them and things like that, as long as we have permission to. Because, some folks, the Lord will tell you not to pray for them. That it's set, they sins are full or whatever. And so we respond in a certain way. That's to keep the devil from getting his grips on us. If somebody come to me and they bitter and they spewing all that bitterness towards me and they cussing me out, if I get bitter because they cussing me out, I'm just like them now. I'm fighting on the same side they fighting on. And it ain't God's side. That's the reason why we're not supposed to let this stuff stick to us. The Bible tells us to pass over transgressions. Pass over that stuff. Don't let that stick to you. If it stick to you, he got you. And that's exactly what he wanted. You see, he wants that contagious stuff to get around real good for you. You see. All right, does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Apostle. That was perfect.
All right. Anyone else?
Okay. I wanted to talk about two things: the attitudes that sustain darkness, and also yielding to the command of a person even under demonic influence, because they're carrying on that attitude that sustains darkness. And while we were sitting here, just discussing, it made me think back to one of the times we were out in Slidell, I think at the in the conference room, and there were several people talking about, I forgot how it all came about, but I think it had something to do with like confessing things so that people could get prayed for and be freed from whatever they were dealing with. And there were several of the sisters who were talking about like them being offended at me because I wouldn't answer the phone, like right away whenever they called or something. I might wait hours or something to return their calls. And I didn't address it then, but one of the things that came to my mind that came back to me, concerning this was how, and this has to do with the bad attitude. Sometimes people will call me and the Lord will warn me before they call. And it's like, I know what spirit they're calling in. And this is the idea, I guess, behind it. Those attitudes that sustain darkness, we as sisters, we have to be aware of how vulnerable we really are. Just number one, how the Lord made us, but number two, if we've disconnected from our head, we have to understand how vulnerable we are. And when we have gotten out of the way and gotten out of line like that, we open up ourselves to the enemy. And so one of the things that I would experience is somebody didn't sat and they've gotten worked up because they didn't yield it to the devil and letting the devil talk to them, or whatever demonic entity, whatever it is, and they've gotten worked up, and then they're calling me. And I think that was mentioned earlier about, well, just a moment ago, because that was one of the examples I remember, that spirit trying to use um, whoever's on the other line to try to vex my spirit as well. But the Lord would always warn me some kind of way I would feel what spirit they were calling in, and so I wouldn't answer the phone calls. I would, or I might pick up the phone and I might feel a hesitation from the Lord, like, no, don't answer that, feeling the spirit behind that. And the other thing that I was going to say about it, which was the other part of what I thought about, was this idea of yielding to the commands. Because once, if I answer the call and the person on the other end has sat and they've let the enemy or the kingdom of darkness get them riled up and have them vexed, and then I answer the phone, it's like them commanding my attention and me going into agreement, and now I'm vexed. And so that was something that I had to learn, because I've done that a few times where, just answering, not paying attention, not being prayerful. And I've actually had that happen, where somebody, I find out after I answer the phone, like, oh, okay, you've been letting the devil talk to you, and now you calling and vexing my spirit. And so that was something that really stood out to me in this particular message about yielding to the commands of somebody who's under a demonic influence. That it doesn't have to be the ritual itself, that they're participating in some ritual. Doesn't have to be the pot stirring, it doesn't have to be frog legs and none of that involved. All you have to do is yield to their command. And in that particular instance, the command was they were commanding my attention. Command, because sometimes I get calls back to back to back to back, trying to make me answer the phone and talk to them. And so again, I learned after a couple of times of doing that, what spirit was behind that, and I learned to listen to the Lord. And even, sometimes it could seem like everything is fine, and I might go to call somebody, or I might go to answer the phone, and I'll hear no, like, not right now, and just be prayerful about it. Or somebody might ask a question, and I don't answer right away because I don't feel the green light from the Lord to answer right away, because sometimes people are still under a demonic influence, and they're still trying to command me to do something. And and so that's one way. And I guess on both sides, that we have to be mindful, and really be prayerful, when we're dealing with people. And also, again, we have to really, really understand our level of vulnerability, because the Lord designed us as women to be connected to our head. And so outside of that, there's a higher level of vulnerability. And with us being emotional creatures, again, like we've said before, it's not meant for us to give up that nurturing side. We're not supposed to hide it. We're not supposed to extinguish it, but the idea is to be connected with our head and be connected with that male authority, so the balance is there, and so that the things that we would naturally miss, they can cover us and protect us. Otherwise, again, I think I mentioned it in the last video, if we are led by our emotions and we yield ourselves to the kingdom of darkness, we are weaponizing ourselves against this ministry, and we're weaponizing ourselves against the kingdom of God. We are just openly allowing the enemy to use us. And again, once we open that door, we can't tell them how to use us. So, we can think, oh, I love Apostle Bolden, I love this ministry, I know the Lord sent me here. But the moment you make a choice to cater to your flesh, be led by your emotions, you're saying to the kingdom of darkness, use me to tear this ministry down. And so we have to be aware of that. And so that was one of the things that, again, that really stood out to me, that, the attitudes that sustain the darkness, and yielding to that, and how, it's just a matter of us coming into agreement with somebody who's in that darkness, where, then we're opened up also.
Yeah, so we have to be careful who we allow in our space, and what we're dealing with when somebody's there. If people are coming with darkness, then they're wanting to share that darkness with you, and you have to guard that. You have to guard your own atmosphere. You have to guard your, the Bible tells us to guard our hearts with all diligence. To guard our hearts with all diligence, for all of it flows all the issues of life. So we have to guard that. And I'll say this. I don't have a problem with helping the poor people out of whatever rut they're in, but that's if they want to be pulled up out of it. If you want to stay there, I don't call me to your party, because I'm not going. I'm here to pull you up, not to go in there with you. You see that? If that make any sense. So that's one of the things we have to think about. We have to know how people are. Some folks want to be where they are, and you just have to understand the motive. If somebody's saying, Brother Bolden, I want to talk to you because I need some help about something. Well, I'm assuming you won't help, so I'll help you. But if you want to call me just to have a griping session, you're not getting help. You don't want help. You just want to share your darkness with me. And I'm not going to do that. You see, I got my own war that I'm fighting. I'm commissioned to help you if you want help, but I'm not commissioned to go to your party of pities. You see, I'm not going to do that. And so, you have to want help. You see, you have to want help, and we have to guard ourselves about those things. To me, I see it the way that it is. To me, it's a mockery. It's just flat out mockery to me. I remember Lester Summerall telling a story about him watching. He was I guess you could say a master at casting out devils, because he knew who he was in the Lord, and he watched other people do it. Trying to just help them, and he talked about how he watched people try to cast out devils, and the devil say, "If you'll cook me so and so, I'll come out." They'll go cook something for him, and the devil don't come out. And then the devil say, "Well, look, if you just lay me on the floor now," he's talking through the person's voice. So it's somebody that's demon possessed that's talking, but the devil's talking through the person. And the devil said, "If you roll me on the floor, I'll come out." So they put the person on the floor. They roll the person all over the floor. Said, "Well, I'm not. Just keep rolling me. I'll come out." Well, what was he doing? He was mocking believers that didn't know what they were doing. You don't play with the devil. You definitely don't. You don't cook for him. You don't roll him around on the floor. We don't see that nowhere in the Bible. The Lord ain't doing none of that. Just come out. That's all. And you coming out. I'm not about to play with you. You see? So I know if folks want help, they can be helped. And you ain't got to counsel them for the next 10 years on how they need to get over hurt and how they need to forgive. If you want help, you'll get over. You can get helped. I know how fast the Lord can heal people of hurt. I've had it happen to me in an instant. So I know when folks are still hurt from something 5, 10, 20 years ago, it's because they want to be, not because God can't help them, because they want to be hurt. They feel like I got a right to be hurt, you see. So in that, it's a more spiritual warfare, because we also have to make sure. Listen, I'm gonna share with you where the devil get folks at. sometimes we can be so excited because somebody have called on us to minister to them and to be there for them, and you know, our Lord, now I know why I went through what I went through. I'm here to help, you know. And the devil is counting on that. He's counting on you thinking you've been upgraded in the kingdom because some devil done called you to play with you. You see, he's counting on that. And that devil will wear you out. You'll be coming and sharing your testimony. Yeah, I'm working with somebody. I'm casting out a devil. Is it gone? No, that it's just, you know, just few. I've been talking to them for the last few months. They getting better. No, they're not getting better. You know, the Lord would still be here on this earth if it took him that long to cast out a devil. You see, if he had to talk to the devil and negotiate, there were no negotiations. You just coming out. That's all. You see, and so the devil will catch us wherever we're proud at. Yeah, he'll get us wherever we're proud at. He'll wear you out thinking that you're doing something against his kingdom. So we don't participate in dealing with darkness, willful darkness. If people want to stay dark, they're gonna stay dark, but not on my time. You see that? I don't have time to deal with willful depression and willful darkness. That, you know, you stay over there with it. You see. All right. Anyone else want to share?
I'll share. The video was really good. It was a blessing to see all that. I know, like, witchcraft. This is all very scary to me too, because I'm like sitting here like, Lord, is it me? Like the disciples, like, I don't feel like I have any ill thoughts or anything toward you both, but I know that I can be ignorant of that, and it's really scary actually, because I know I've dealt with witchcraft in my life. Since I've come to this ministry, I've learned that I've dealt with witchcraft. I've been dealing in it, not knowing. And so just the rejection issue, I feel like I've had the rejection issue when I was a child, and I feel like a lot of it I've been healed from, but I feel like I'm still dealing with it in like day-to-day interactions with like people at work and things like that. And I don't want to be dealing with it. I want it to be gone. So, but I feel like a lot of the things that I've overcome, or I've gotten past hurt, but maybe I could be wrong there. And a lot of the things that you said, Apostle Bolden, about like, it's been hard for me. Sleep has been like a thing my whole life. It's been really hard to go to bed. I used to stay up really late and then get up, you know, and that's wrong. Like, the Lord always wanted me to not do that. And so now I've been doing much, much better with that. But I'll go to bed at 10, get up at 6. But then the other day I was at work, and I've been like really overcoming a lot of little flesh things that I used to do, like overeating and things like that, and not going on the internet. But at work, this one particular day, I went on the internet and I was on YouTube watching like hell testimonies and things like that. And for some reason, I can feel like the Lord doesn't want me to do this for 4 hours. And so I get home, I go to bed, and that next morning, I couldn't get out of bed. It's like I opened the door for my flesh, and like I couldn't decide what the devil was going to do with it, you know? So I felt like it was connected. Like, but in a lot of ways, I feel like I'm overcoming things like in the flesh. And also I've been working a lot, and I like to work because I do better on those days when I'm busy. And the days where I have a day off, which is rare, it's still, I don't like having days off. And I've always been that way too, because just like you said, like the devil's right there with the thoughts. But I know recently I've been realizing I have to fight. Like, I can't go by my feelings. I've I've been very big on going by my feelings with things, like just getting up in the morning. You know, I've been doing good with that, but I see where I need to decide I'm going to do this, even though I don't feel like it. And it reminded me of a few years ago when I was smoking 3 packs a day, and I begged the Lord to take it, and he wouldn't until I decided I wasn't smoking anymore. I decided one night, Lord, I meant it. I'm not smoking anymore, but I'm going to need your help. And he took it from me like that night. And so I know that we have to decide we're not going to do this. And then just like Jesus in the garden, where he decided I'm going to the cross, this is what I'm going to do. Then the help came. So that rang true for me too. And yeah, so this it's scary because I feel like I'm doing the best I can to make sure I'm over all these things, but I still feel like this could be me. Like I could be attacking people with my bad attitude, and I don't want to be that way. So I'm scared. Like I don't want this, you know, I want to be past all this. I don't want to be a witch, or if that's what I'm doing, you know. So that's what I wanted to share.
And I believe that that's the reason why the Lord is having us to talk about this, so that we can become aware of that our feelings and the things that we're dealing with is not just us. You know, we're no matter how far away we are from people, our feelings and our attitudes don't just have to do with us. That we can, you know, we can be, and that's anybody, you know, that's anybody. If 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 I got a bad attitude towards somebody, then I'm sending something their way. You know, anybody could get caught up in that if they're not watchful and they're not thinking along the lines of what we are talking about tonight. This is designed to let us know it's not okay for us to have a bad attitude, even when we're off to ourselves. It's not okay. That's the reason why we're talking about this. So, you know, we can understand how maybe the devil have played us in the past, and we could do something about it. You know, our best response is love. You know, that's our best response is love, and it helps us not to carry on that. You know, because when you are just naturally a person of love, you don't want your atmosphere to be upset in any kind of way. You know, you love bathing in the Spirit of God and in His presence, and you know that presence can't dwell in a dark realm at all. You see that it's not going to be there. So that's the reason why we're talking about this, so that we can know now how to operate, you know, and how to be, and we'll reject the temptation of taking on a bad attitude. We'll reject it. You know, that we won't let it ride us for so long anymore, because, you know, and nobody knows, it's just me and I'm just in my house or whatever. We're not going to go along with that anymore, because now we know these attitudes are mobile. Yeah, they're mobile, and they can go across the world in a split second. You see, yeah, they can go across the world in a split second. So that's the reason why we're talking about this, so we can have knowledge about it, so that we're not ignorant of the devil's vices, and we know how to combat it. You see, we know how to combat it. All right. Anyone else want to share?
Um, yeah, I'm thankful that we are that we listened to that message and that we're having this discussion. When I was listening to it and he was talking about, you know, the bad attitude and rejection, unforgiveness, bitterness, like all the things he was listening, um, and how those are like bridges for the kingdom of darkness, and it's darkness, and that's like, I knew that was for me, because that's like, those are all things, that I deal with, and or things that I've, yielded myself to, and it's, um, you're just gonna, like, I just, like, it was making me realize, like, how much, I've been allowing the devil to use me, and then even like what Sister Bolden was saying about I'm not answering, and like, it made me think about, like, like that saying, misery loves company, and I know that that's something that I've said it, but I've been that person that, I'm miserable, I feel something's bothering me, whatever, I just want to talk to somebody, I want to, but I'm just spreading, you know, like how she said, like vexing um, someone's spirit, and um, yeah, it's it's like very alarming that um, I guess I'm just realizing like how sensitive these things are, and just like how you said, like how much like we really are in a war, like it's warfare. And, it's like I just like it's I don't know. It's just like how Sister Lord was saying. It's just scary. Like just thinking about things that I've thought, or like how I felt, and then even like what like going off to yourself. Like, okay, well, I'm just going to be over here. I'm gonna be in my room. I'm whatever. But it's like it's still um, like it's. But I do see a difference, because times when I don't do that, I see a difference with how I go through whatever it is. Like it's like I feel better, but you know, when I do the opposite, it's no good. But yeah, yeah, that's I really want to like that's something I really want to overcome, is my attitude and being led by my emotions, and just all those things. Because I don't want the devil to use me anymore. And he's used me long enough. Like enough is enough. So, but I'm thankful for these things that we're learning, and just having some ways to combat some of the stuff that I've been doing specifically. And that's all. Sure.
All right. Anyone else want to share?
I just wanted to add one more thing. It's sort of a confession. Well, it is a confession. But that when you mentioned self-entitlement and how we have to accept that we're going to be persecuted and not take it personal, that is one thing I have a problem with. And I try really hard not to. And sometimes I feel like it doesn't bother me at all. Like my own family, when especially my own family, because then the rejection issues from my childhood come back, and it's like I'm being rejected. But I know it's a spiritual war. I've accepted that in my head, but in my heart, I feel like I get offended. Or like Ava's grandmother, her Nana, she was giving us a hard time. She wanting Ava to go home and to be with her, and um, I got offended at her, and I was trying really hard not to, but it was like it was just bothering me all day, and I would think about it and just get angry, and I even called her, and the conversation was not, it wasn't the Lord speaking through me. It was not, I wasn't overly angry or anything, but it was not the Lord. And even those situations out in day-to-day life where I feel like, oh, that was just the enemy, but I still have this like it's like, I think it's connected to rejection, but I don't really know how to deal with it beyond what I'm doing. I know my mind has to change about that. I have to accept it, but I feel like I have when I'm not in a situation, but then when I get in the situation, the reaction is, and it might be just, I have to discern that this is the devil's thoughts and I need to reject them. But I'm not sure.
But I can say from my own experience, when we're going through something like that, the Lord is calling for those things, and we're not going to get any kind of relief until we learn to overcome them. That's just a part of the process. If we have a sore spot, then God Himself gives the devil permission to poke us in that sore spot until we learn not to have a sore spot. That's it don't sound nice, but that's the way it is, because the Lord wants us to grow up, and we're not going to grow up if He comes and bail us out of stuff and protect us from the areas we need to grow in. You think about it. It's like a teacher has been teaching a student all week long about something in math, and then tell that student, you're going to take a test on Friday. Well, then the parent coming and telling us, and the parent keeping a child home from the test on Friday. So guess what's gonna happen Monday? You're gonna get a test. And if your parent keep you home on Monday, guess what's gonna happen Tuesday? Yeah, another test. The test ain't going nowhere until you take it and pass it. That's the way it is. See, that's a lesson that I had to learn. That I had to see when I could really see it spiritually. I learned not to, one thing I can say about the devil is he's the devil. And I don't expect him to be anything but that. And, regardless of what vessel he's using, anybody that's willing to yield to him, it don't matter. They can be saved. They can be the biggest devil out there. It doesn't matter. From 8 to 80, he'll use them if they allow it. You see? So we have to learn that, the devil ain't gonna change. He's not gonna say, okay, I'm gonna let up off of you. I see you having a hard time, and I can't stand to see you cry. The devil don't he can care less about any of that, any of that at all. And so, and the crazy part is he has God's permission as long as we have that sore spot. We gonna have to grow. Okay, Lord, I'm gonna take this test and I'm gonna pass it. If we have that mindset, then the Lord, the Lord will help us to pass it. He's already given us the tools that we need to pass it. But I tell you, we can go a lot further if we realize the devil is the devil, and he's consistent. He's a consistent devil, and he's not a nice devil. He don't have good days and bad days. He comes with the same amount of hatred that he has and has had from the beginning of time. He don't have any good days. You think about it. That same devil that killed Jesus Christ at 33 and a half, he was trying to kill him when he was just born. That same amount of hatred that he had, see? So he don't let up. And he has God's permission not to let up as long as we're failing the test. We're gonna have to pass it. We're gonna have to pass it. And really what we have to do is ask the Lord, show me where am I missing it at? You see, I'll say this. How many of you by show of hands have ever failed a test? How many of you by show of hands wanted to know why you failed the test? Yeah, in school is what I'm talking about. In school, you failed a test in school, and then you want to know, so why did I fail this test? Well, if we ask the Lord for the right answers to what we got wrong, He'll give them to us. But if we don't ask Him, we're gonna keep marking A where B should have been marked, and we're gonna keep failing. So we have to ask the Lord, why do I keep failing this test? You see, why is it that I'm not being able? We have to get to the bottom of that. And oftentimes we could think it's something way, way out there somewhere, and it could be just something simple. Just something. I can tell you this: if the Lord have allowed the devil to test you, then the Lord have already given you the answers to the test. And we have to go back and figure out what have we rejected. Where were we sleeping at during the message? Where did we tune the Lord out at, or whatever the case may have been, you see? Because he gives us the answers, not to just pass, but to make all A's in it, you see. And so those are things we have to think about. And I tell you, after a while, you learn to be appreciative of it. I don't want to go on to the next level without passing this test. I don't want to go on, because I know if the Lord just passed me on and say, okay, you just ain't gonna get this test right, you can go on to 5th grade or whatever. I'm gonna bomb that. That's 5th grade is gonna kill me if I couldn't pass the test in 4th grade. You see, so if the Lord pass you on, and you in trouble. You see, so I thank God for the retakes. Yeah, I thank God for that, because yeah, I tell you what. All right, anyone else want to share?
I'll go ahead and share, just to kind of, I think, piggyback off of what you were just talking about. The having to retake the test is true, because that is definitely something that I've been experiencing. When you were talking about how if you have a sore spot, like the Lord, I guess, will allow the devil, or they work together in tandem or something, to just keep pressing it until you no longer have a sore spot. And that's definitely something that I've been experiencing, where the Lord was just like, you're not going to get past this. You're going to have to deal with this, accept it, or you're not going to, I'm just going to keep pressing this, and you're going to have to deal with it at some point. But in relation to the message, something that caught my attention, some people already mentioned it, about the having a bad attitude being witchcraft. I did not know that. So I was, when Pastor Darby mentioned that in the message, I was like, whoa, I didn't know, like, something that you could, I guess, in your mind at the time, think is simple. And like you said, you go off by yourself and think, well, I'm not bothering nobody. I'll just get over this in my own little corner by myself. But it's still you having that intention there, because you are with upholding that darkness. Then you open the door for the enemy to be able to penetrate and use you, I guess, for your own demise, and for whoever you have a bad attitude against also. And also, when he was talking about the witchcraft, or you being caught in witchcraft, caught up in it by just simply agreement, and not necessarily having to be going to like a witch doctor to, perform these rituals, but you in agreement by just simply obeying a command that somebody who is operating in that does. It just kind of, it made me think even further, in tandem with when he kind of said a little bit later on how, even though he had accepted salvation and was living for the Lord, because of the people in his bloodline before him practicing that witchcraft and opening the door, he still had to fight that same warfare. And it made me think about, stuff that we talked about, that y'all know about in detail. I'm like, okay, this makes a lot more sense. And I could see that same, I'm not that I'm trying to put off on nobody else, but I could see that same scenario in my own life of like, wait a minute, this person was dealing with this, and then I could see this person on my direct family tree before me dealing with this, and then I'm dealing with the same thing that these two people were dealing with. Like, this is a familial warfare that's been passed down because somebody opened the door. I personally think, and have come to the conclusion, I guess, and the acceptance, that somebody was a witch on purpose and initiated the other people, whether willingly or unwillingly. Somebody was intentionally a witch, and then just introduced the junk into the family line. And then, and then now get to my part of the family tree, the generation. And I'm like, he was talking about how you'll know that you have been, I can't remember if he said locked into witchcraft, or that you are, I guess, on the receiving end. And one of the signs was the limitation. Like, you having a mind to want to do things and just not being able to, no matter how much you have a mind to, or not how much you might want to try to do something. All these different things in your life that's not manifesting the way that it's supposed to, even though it should be, I guess, especially as if you're a believer. And I was like, it just made me really examine some things that I never thought about before and put some things into perspective. Like he used the example of like, this your family member, so you see the egg over there, but you ain't gonna ask why the egg over there. The egg just over the door. So I'm just gonna walk by. I'm like, it's just certain things that kind of came back to my mind that I was like, some of this stuff just don't make no sense. And so thinking about it from like when he was talking about that family from Louisiana, the part of his family that's from Louisiana, and then dealing in that voodoo, and then how it killed his dad and his uncle, and then how it was coming after him, and that was just him having to fight that same warfare just simply because that's his bloodline. And I was just like, it's some junk on this bloodline that is being passed down. Like, and it, like he was saying, like the devil ain't going to no other families. He's staying in that same family and just really attacking and coming after the just generation after generation of people. And if you don't know or accept that, that witchcraft was introduced somewhere, willingly participated in somewhere along the lines, then you're not gonna get past it. And to me, that was so profound. I was just like, okay, Lord, I think about that, from an ancestry standpoint, if you will, prior people before me, and then think about the sore spot that you keep pressing, and it make a lot more sense. Of like, okay, some of this stuff is connected in a way that I didn't realize before, and just being able to see those connecting pieces of like different mindsets. Because he was even, I think, if I'm not mistaken, he was talking about, or maybe I'm thinking about something you told us about, like you don't have to necessarily agree with maybe the thing that somebody might be talking about right now, but just sharing in a mindset with somebody, you're still in agreement with them. And then even that being like a conduit for that same witchcraft to take place. And so it was truly, truly a blessing to me. I could have sworn I heard that message before. Like like you might have had it playing when we were on the way to Brother Linda's one time. But this all sounded completely brand new to me. So I was like, maybe that was something else. Because I could have sworn I heard this message before, but I wasn't expecting any of this when I played it. So I was pleasantly surprised and really just grateful for the amount of detail that the Lord gave him to be able to go into, to where if you in it, then you were able to identify yourself. Like that was, to me, he left no stone unturned to where you could be confused about how witchcraft plays out in just everyday life. You being in agreement with people and being initiated into it, or people being like willingly going into it. Like he was talking about how, like, in the people who practice voodoo, um, how they, in his family have intertwined that into the Catholicism. And I was thinking about how, because I think he mentioned this too, about how like today society has made like witchcraft into like entertainment. And I was thinking about how one of my coworkers had went to New Orleans one time for some, I guess her and her friends went for some trip, and they were all talking about going to either a witch doctor or a tarot reader or something with voodoo. Like, cause in New Orleans, now in the tourist areas, they have voodoo shops where people can go, and it's like a tour stop or something. And I was like, do not do that. Do not do, especially because she was a professing believer, but she didn't know. And I was like, you about to get yourself caught up in some stuff. That stuff is real. I'm telling you, that stuff is real. And I was telling her about how, like, I knew someone who was a witch and knew someone who went to that witch to have something done to somebody, and that it came to pass. I'm like, do not go play with that stuff. Like, that is not all like what they try to make it seem like on Disney Channel. And that is not what that is. That's real life stuff. And so she didn't do it. Thank the Lord, because her friends went. I don't know what happened to them people when what happened with them going to do, but she didn't do it. I think it really was just the Lord, because she said when they went down there, like she just didn't, like her spirit was grieved. Like even if she wanted to, she couldn't go in there. And I was just like, you didn't miss nothing. Trust me. You didn't miss not a single thing that you wouldn't regret later on. But it just, that stuff is, I don't know. it's hidden in plain sight almost, if you will. Like, it's not necessarily that it's being hidden, but because it's being taken so lightly, people don't take it as serious. It's almost like, oh, this is a fun thing. Tarot reading. I'm gonna go get my palm read or something like that. And you're like, you just opening a portal up for the enemy to come in and wreak havoc in your life. I'll just share one more thing too, how he was saying that a lot of people get caught up. I don't know why this stuck out to me. I just thought it was interesting how he was saying a lot of people get initiated or caught up into witchcraft because they're experiencing these demonic manifestations and they know it's something that's not natural and it's something spiritual. And so they start going searching to try to figure out how to combat the devil, only to be met with the devil and to like get initiated pretty much and get caught up into all these like spiritualist kind of other religions, if you will. I just thought that was interesting because I have heard some people talk about how, they ended up down those roads because they were trying to seek to get out of whatever manifestations they saw happening in their lives, but then got caught up with like going into Satanism or something like that. Some of them like new age kind of things that people start practicing and stuff. But this was really, really, really a blessing. I was grateful to the Lord for it and just grateful for the breakdown of how to come out of that and how not to be the person who is the witch doing all that stuff. So I think that's all.
When you think about his last name, of course, that's a Louisiana name. It's a French name. The way it would be spelled is D apostrophe capital A-R-B-Y. If he was in Louisiana, and that might be how it's spelled on his birth certificate. But, Darby is a French name. Darby, basically, And it's important that we know what our folks done dealt with. I'll just say this, brothers and sisters. Just, what I said a few weeks ago during the message. I think it was in Consider Your Ways. Look at your life. Look at what the average person has accomplished or have done that's around your age. If you haven't done it, it's something there. Look at the average person. What would the average person be at your age? What would they be doing? What would they have? If you have not crossed that line yet, something's wrong. It's a devil somewhere. It's a spiritual attack somewhere. And you don't need to think that things are just falling in line with the times. If my mother had gotten married at the age of 20, I'm talking to you sisters. If my mother got married at the age of 20, I say it this way. A spiritual, Bible-believing mother, if she was married at the age of 20, she should be asking her 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old daughter, what are you waiting on to get married? Unless she's a witch. She know you out there throwing it around. So if she got married in her 20s, she ought to be asking you, what's wrong with you? Okay, let me come over here. Let me fix your hair up. Come on, let's go dress shopping. Let's go shopping for clothes. Let's get you some new shoes. That's the way the mamas did it when I was growing up. That's the way grandma and them did it when I was growing up. They knew, okay, your bloodline get married in the 20s. Or by this time, and the men was, you should be having a car by this time. It was all of this stuff. They understood something is off. Boy, what's done got a hold of you? We told you not to be drinking stuff when you go to people's house. Whatever the case is, don't you stay from over there. They knew something was off. And they would ask questions. Not today. Not today. Because today we got selfish mamas. They want their child to remain unmarried. So that you could be with me. You marry somebody, when you gonna have time for me? You see? All of that stuff, brothers and sisters, all of that play out. Daughters supposed to be following mama's footsteps. Sons supposed to be following the father's footsteps. If something is behind, there's a devil somewhere holding it up. You see, you're behind. There's a devil somewhere. Y'all heard him talk about the spiritual husband and things like that, and that's the way it is. That's the way it is. That you can have a woman want to get married all of her heart, and she gonna cry, and I don't want to mess it up, and I know you the one. I don't want to mess it up. And then the next day gonna argue with you about you buying some peanuts and you didn't get her some. That's so. What kind of devil you got? You see, so that what happened to all this crying and you not wanting to mess it up? What you think you doing now? You ready to fight over some peanuts? You see, it is a spirit that is more spiritual than what we know. And does everybody understand now? In the first grade, see John run. I read that in the book. That was normal. I go home, tell mama, hey, I'm learning book, I'm learning to read. See John run? So they applaud. If I'm in the 10th grade, still reading See John run, guess what class I'm gonna be put in? Because they know I'm not advancing. You ought not to be 40 years old still reading See John run. You ought to be further along in life. If you're not, something is off. You have to know that. You have to know that. That you're stagnated somewhere. Didn't that what he called it? A spirit of stagnation? You're stagnated somewhere. And it's gonna take you standing against what have stood against you for it to break. You see, you're gonna have to do that. All right, anyone else want to share?
I would like I would like to share stuff. It's a lot that was said in this message that was just really a blessing. Um, One of the things that really stood out to me was about how the devil, how he has to get people like the vessels. I was thinking about like it's something because he brought up unforgiveness, rejection, hurt, bitterness, and all of these things. And he was saying that that's what the devil uses for that open door for people to be as these dark vessels. And one of the things he brought up was about MK over control, and he was saying what that was. Now I had heard about that before, but literally when I heard it, I thought that it was some type of machine that they were putting people through and doing something to their minds. And he was saying that all it is what the people in the demonic realm are. I mean, these people are doing is they're like raping children when they're young. They cause like a real traumatic event to happen in their life. So in their mind, um, they're trying to run from what happened. They're running in their mind within themselves, and it opens this door for us another spirit to come in, and that basically that spirit is what's there. That's in the person operating through the person. And when he said that, it just really hit me, and I started thinking about just hurt in general. Like you don't even have to go through such a traumatic experience as far as like a child being raped. I just thought about if you make something that happened in your life traumatic, for example, hurt, like how he brought up, you being hurt in a relationship, in a past relationship. If you make that a traumatic event and you cause all of these things from your heart, jealousy, anger, bitterness, all of these things, you're automatically being used as that vessel, and that demon is being used in you. Basically, you're a witch now. And it just made me think about in the past, it literally took me back to me examining how um, in the past, I remember just having this anger when, I got into some things that I didn't get into, shouldn't have gotten into. And I thought about how, I just had all this anger and, um, just how I was operating, just, just nasty attitude, not wanting to be bothered, being isolated and just different things that I saw that operate in my life. And, it made me think, I was like, well, I don't want to go there because I know I was in such a dark place. And one of the things that I was connecting that to was something that he brought up with the dreams and dreaming. Now, he said that if you have dreams where you're seeing yourself back in the past, maybe like somewhere you came from, a childhood home or something like that, certain family members, that's also like these spiritual ties with like family, like a spiritual. It's still. I remember him bringing up the spirit of limitations, but he said something else like it's like I guess a family curse. And when I was having these dreams about the past and like I was telling my husband, I was at first when I would have a dream about some family members. I'm in like my grandmother's home because I grew up in my grandmother's home. I mean, a lot of us stayed in that home for a while when we were younger, with some of my cousins, and I was always dreaming of this particular aunt and these specific cousins. And when it happened, when it first started happening, these dreams, I just thought they were just normal dreams. I'm just dreaming of them. It didn't seem like anything spiritual to me. And so I didn't bother. I didn't bother to write it down, do anything with it because I just thought, okay, I'm just having just regular dreams. These are. It didn't seem spiritual, and I would just keep. It wasn't every night, but every once in a while they would just happen, and it just about seemed like at least once a week I was gonna have a dream like that. And I didn't understand what it was. I wasn't renouncing anything. I wasn't waking up. You know, like basically what he was saying, when you have these type of dreams, what you're supposed to do, I wasn't doing any of that. And I was thinking about this has been going on for a long time. And I just thought about specifically these people that I had been dreaming about. I know for a fact that they've spoken against, not only me, not only against, my marriage, but they also spoken against. They don't know nothing about the ministry, but one of the things that I heard about them was these are the same people I say that something was like, oh, they hope that I'm not in court. And it's not like they're talking all the time. So even with hearing that, I just kind of was like, okay, they don't know whatever. They just see me not, responding to them. That I'm not, going to family reunions anymore. I'm not doing what I used to do with them anymore. So that's probably why they're saying what they're saying. But I never thought that even though you can be going on with life, that doesn't mean that somebody can literally see your life, not like it, not like that you're no longer, I guess, hanging with them, and they can be sending these curses to you, and you just going on about it, and you don't even know that it's going on. So I was just kind of thinking about that when that part came up in the message, and um, um, it's something too because I know that when he was saying something about sending stuff back, because there were certain thoughts would come to me and things like that. Family members would come up in my mind. I'd be thinking, I wonder how they're doing. I have this thought to want to speak to them, but it's not about anything spiritual. So I was, whenever I would have like what I feel like is an attack, I would never say, I would never command it to go back to where it came from because I thought that was, I didn't, it's not that I thought it was bad, but I just I didn't feel like I should do that. So I would just tell it to leave. But that was all I would say. And just hearing this message and also what you were sharing in the beginning, it just made me renew my mind in that's what needs to be done. And I also looked at it in another perspective. I was talking about when he was saying that the testimony that came up about the spirit being sent back to the man that was doing the witchcraft, and how pretty much that kind of led to him being saved because it caused his mind to wonder, okay, what just happened here, And I kind of thought about it like that, like, like that could be, not saying that that's going to be all the time, but that could be one of the reasons why, we should do things like that because it makes people think or make people know, okay, that's, I guess for people that don't know, not the ones that I guess do, but they don't know the power of God, they're going to know then that, okay, that's the real power there. And so I don't know, I was just kind of looking at it like that, like it's to not look at it in that light anymore, that that's actually what I need to be done. 'Cause I guess I just had something must have been in me to know that it came from somebody, because I, for whatever reason, I never wanted to say that. I didn't know why. And I guess that could have been part of the attack too, but I never would say, to send it. I would never want to send whoever sent it, I never wanted to send it back, if that makes sense. And um, it was kind of like just like um, for now. But I just was truly grateful for this message and just what was brought out about it, about especially about the hurt and the unforgiveness and these bad attitudes and rejections, and it just made me know to just it just caused me to make me want to examine myself further. Because even just sitting here when what was being said earlier, I was just thinking the same thing. Like, okay, I'm examining myself. Like, okay, did I do anything? Did I have, did I come with them? Just anything, even a thought. Like, either when I have thoughts, I always immediately I try to, like, I remember what was said about our thoughts versus the enemy's thoughts. So whenever that happens, I always try to immediately cast those thoughts down and rebuke things and not take those thoughts on and things. But still, I still wanted to check myself, because I just don't want to be used in that manner, because I know I have been used in that manner in the past. Just simply choosing just to be in choose flesh in the moment because of how I felt and not thinking about anybody else. So that was just a blessing and a reminder to me, and that was all I wanted to share.
All right, well, go ahead and open it up before we, again, anybody want to share anything before we close? I want to just share some closing words before we close. So I'm going to give anyone else an opportunity to share real briefly before I do the closing word, because I don't want to keep us up too late tonight. So we're going to get up with a good attitude and come to church in the morning. So I want us to, anyone else want to share before I share some closing words?
I was really grateful for this message, because it kind of went along with what the last one we heard, and like how he was bringing out how the stuff like rejection and the bitterness and the unforgiveness, and I had been like examining how things had been going, because this week I realized that I had been accepting the morning sickness as something normal. And I remember, he said that on the last message about be careful what you accept, because naturally so, because sometimes you could be accepting something that you don't have to accept. And my husband had brought it to me, and he was like, basically, that's not the Lord's will for you to be, you know um something to be happening to you to where it could cause you to disobey. And that um helped me to see just how subtle the devil is, and how um he was trying to use that to get me to play the victim, because I like, it's like I became aware, oh well, I'm not gonna have a pity party anymore, because that's not of the Lord, and I just don't need to practice that. But okay, well, let me attack you in your body, so that, and make you think that, oh, you just have to accept this because you're expecting. So and I was like, I renounced it, and ever since then, um ever since Tuesday, I haven't been experiencing any kind of morning sickness, and I'm really grateful for that. But just hearing this message, it helped me to see how like he said, relentless the devil is, and just with the rejection, and how the spirit of murder have worked through me in the past, like with stuff happening to our daughters and stuff happening in our household because of me playing into that. And now that I'm aware of that, you know, now I can see, okay, how the devil has operated, um, through me with rejection in the past, and just also having a man spirit. But another thing I got from it was just how he was saying, talking about like touching things from, like, I guess from the past that maybe I guess he was saying, like, you've turned away from or you repented of, but you've touched that, but the door is still not closed. And asking questions like that, like how like Apostle Bolden would have us question ourselves. And I was like, yeah, I need to be asking that, because of the type of friendships, like he was saying, I'm not quick to be given into friendships, but that was something that I fell for with the rejection. And I realized, as he was saying, with those kind of things, the devil has an easy door to use you if you've dealt with that or if you deal with that. And that just opened my eyes up with that. And just also how things have played out in my own life, just rejecting wisdom. And also another thing that stood out to me was when he was saying, like, how we have to fight our own battles and stuff like that. And I was sharing with my husband just last week when we listened to the last message. I was like, I realized that, well, my husband said something earlier that brought me back to that, but he was saying that basically, you all, can't do everything for us, and naturally so. And I was thinking about that spiritually. So, I was saying to my husband, I think I was one of those people, like how Pastor Darby was saying, he's not going to call people whenever they're going through things. And I told my husband, I was like, yeah, I think I've done that with Sister Bolden, where I would want to call her because it was almost like I would want her to figure everything out for me without applying what she was telling me. And I told him, I realized I need to learn how to apply what she's telling me and not think that, those battles, like Pastor Bolden and Sister Bolden, they are going to fight our battles. And I realized that's something I'm learning, living for the Lord, that, I'm going to have to resist the devil. I'm going to have to apply what I hear and, be watching and praying, like he said, and not expecting, everything to just, like Pastor Bolden was saying, God's will to just fall in my lap, um, be prayerful and stuff like that. And also one more thing, just about the dreams and stuff, and how he was saying, looking for the patterns and stuff like that. I'm so very grateful that Apostle Bolden tells us to send in our dreams and type them up and stuff, because, I just had so many, but, I keeping them and stuff like that. And just how he's went back and told us dreams that he's had years ago is, making me see, okay, this is really important, that the Lord is having us keep record of these things so that we can go back and take inventory and just do what we need to do so that we can know how the devil is working in our lives and stuff like that. And yeah, I was just grateful for this message, the last message. And I told my husband, when we lived in the other house, I tried doing spiritual warfare because of reading the book He Came to Set the Captives Free. Like whenever you were telling us to read that, and I remember walking around the property pleading the blood of Jesus, because I heard it in the book, and I was just like, I really want my family to be protected, but I had so much pride. I was so afraid to, and I thought I was going to be looked at crazy by the Boldens and stuff, so I wouldn't ask, because I would tell her I got so many questions, but I would be afraid to ask I was really grateful that, of this message and stuff like that, and just how he brought out, us praying. He was saying for some people praying while they're at work, and that 12 a.m. and that 4 a.m. and sometimes we're up that early. And I told my husband, I was telling him, sometimes I can see where when I pray or when I'm praying throughout the day, my day goes smooth, but then when I'm not, I'm tripping over my own feet. And yeah, I was really grateful for just how he brought things out, and just how it's been going along with the things we've been learning in the ministry and stuff like that. So that's all I wanted to share.
So I'm glad that you brought that up about putting these things into practice. That's the reason why we're having this discussion, that we've had this discussion. We want these things to be put into practice. This Bible, you've heard me say before, this Bible is meant to be lived. You're not gonna share something with you all that I experienced that was kind of cruel, I guess, in a way, but it was the reality. I remember, so y'all know I went in a coma when I think it was September of 1986, and so I was in the 7th grade, and I was a football player. I was playing football, and so I was in a coma, I guess, for about a week or so. And at that time, our football team was undefeated. In fact, I was on the football team with Brother Harold's brother. He and I were teammates and things, and we weren't undefeated that year. But we were still playing football, so we were undefeated so far. So I went in that coma, undefeated, and then when I woke up, when I came out of the coma, that's the first thing I went and found somebody when I got back to school. That's the first thing I want to know. Did we win last year? Did we win last week's game? Did we win it? So I went to this guy's name was Doug. I'm not gonna say his last name, but I went to him. I said, Doug, did we win? Did we win the last week's game Friday? He said, no, we didn't win. Now we had won, but what he was telling me was, you were asleep. I thought that was kind of cruel when he said, what, I couldn't help it, But it made me know that's the way life is. You ain't winning a game unless you're playing it. You're not winning the game unless you're playing it, see? And so we had to take those things into consideration. Now, the last thing that I want to just bring up, just real briefly, just give us something to think about before we come to church tomorrow. Just real briefly. Pastor Darby had mentioned something about, and some of you have brought it up a little bit, about a person experiencing trauma in their life and them hiding. And he was talking about how you have to, when you delivering the word and delivering people, how that word has to chase down this rabbit hole that they went down to hide, because the spirit done built their outer person. They become a new person because of this trauma, but they're really in the rabbit hole somewhere hiding. And of course, the world calls it bipolar, but we know what it is demonic possession. That a person, and one way I see it play out, and I just want to share this. When I see people partying and drinking, especially women, I know that that's not you. That's something else, because that's not even in your nature to want to drink flammable drinks. I know when I see women smoking, I know that that's them hiding, because that's not in your nature. You're not a chimney, so you ain't supposed to have smoke coming out your nose. I know, I guess what I'm saying is, I know it's certain actions that hurt produces. So I'm laying this on in your mind now, because I want each of you to ask yourself this question. Who am I today versus who I was when I was 15? Am I the same person? And I can tell you, if you're not the same person, and I mean in a good way, if your personality has changed, no, your personality didn't change. Does everybody understand what I'm saying now? If you could say your personality changed, I can tell you your personality did not change. You still who you are, but there's a devil at the storefront. And that's what I'm trying to get you to see. That's what I want you to think about now. Who were you before the trauma? And if you could say that you're a different person, I can tell you there is a different person. You're just not a different person. If you paid attention to what Pastor Darby was saying, you'll understand what I'm saying. There's a spirit there. You need to get back to who you were before you ran down a rabbit hole and that spirit took over. Does everybody understand that now? Yeah, you need to get back to that. Because that's what's going to heaven. Not the person who you're pretending to be to hide, hurt, and to guard yourself. See, you need to get back to who you were. You need to let that person come out to play, because that's what God commands. Now, I want to share with you the danger of what I'm talking about. If you come to church tomorrow and that spirit is sitting out front and I'm preaching to it, then how are you changing and you're down in the rabbit hole? If I'm preaching to your soul, how are you changing? But the person that's showing up is the devil himself. What part of that message do you think he's going to allow filter to your soul? Does everybody understand what I'm saying now? Now, I'm hoping that you understand what I'm saying. If the devil is living your life out front and he's coming with you, attending church and having to sit here and tolerate this word, how much of that, and you're down in a rabbit hole somewhere pretending to be out front somewhere, how much of that word do you think is getting to you? Now you understand why some folks have a hard time hearing the word. If you got to come to church prepping yourself for what you're about to hear, I can tell you, you're not living up front. It's something else there. Does everybody understand what I'm saying now? How much, if you down in a rabbit hole and the devil is up front at the door of your life, so every time somebody come knock on the door wanting to talk to you, and the devil is answering the door because you're down in the rabbit hole protecting yourself from being hurt, how much of that word do you think the devil, and I'm saying, hey, Mr. Devil, I'm here to preach, and this is thus said the Lord, and 1 Corinthians 5 and 6 says this, and the devil's passing it on to you. How much is he passing on to you? Yeah, 3 Corinthians says such and such. That's what you're hearing. That's the reason why, and I'm gonna share this. That's the reason why some people can hear the word and they can grow just like that. I ain't got to ever repeat anything to them. They gonna hear the word and they gonna grow. They gonna grow. They gonna grow. All I got to do is say it once, and they gonna get it, and they gonna hear it, and that's gonna take. But if I have to keep saying it, keep repeating it for you to finally get it, it's because the devil is just passing on bits and pieces to you, and he's filtering what you hear. Does everybody see that? Because you down in the rabbit hole, letting him answer the door. He's built he's made you a complex. That's what Pastor Darby said. You become a complex. You know, you got to pass through all kind of doors to get to the real you. Everybody see now? Think about, before we close, let's think about this. How many of you have ever said in your heart, I don't want people to get to know the real me? Now think about what devil was actually saying. I don't want, because if they get to know me, they gonna take advantage of me. And the devil say, yeah, stay down in that rabbit hole because you ain't gonna never grow. Does everybody see that now? The Lord preached to souls, not to devils. That word is meant to get to your soul, not to be filtered through whatever the devil feel like you need to know that Sunday. You see? And so I hope you get it now. Don't get the devil out your house to begin with. Be who you are. Quit thinking it's cute that you hiding and ain't nobody gonna hurt you. You see, that's not God's will. Does everybody understand that now? We need to ask the Lord to help us to bounce back and help us get back to who we were. You know, in other words, move the devil out the way so that we can be on the front lines, you know, with our own soul and not depending on him to give us a little bit of what we just heard in the message. You see. Let's do that, brothers and sisters. It's important that you become and let you be who the Lord intended for you to be out front. Don't let the devil make you a complex. Does everybody understand that now? All right. So I pray that was something was said that helped you. I know I was blessed by this discussion. My prayer is that you were all blessed by it and that you will, when we come to church tomorrow, let's be ready to do some warfare. Let's come to church mad at the devil and what he's done, and let's come determined. Now, as sure as I'm sitting here, he gonna try you. When you get up in the morning, don't you be spiritual minded. You know, Sunday morning ain't the time to get mad over cornflakes and who got one too many of them. You know, if the devil gets you, make him work for it. Everybody understand that now. So you watch it now. You know, you can't expose the devil without the devil coming for you in a higher way. And you know, whenever we discuss this message, whatever's going to be preached tomorrow, I don't want to hear, you know, I fell for it. I'm telling you not to fall for it tonight. I'm telling you what the devil's going to try. You see, and because he don't want you to remember what was discussed tonight. And so let's go to bed victorious, and let's wake up victorious, and let's remain victorious. Let's pay attention to everything that the Lord had to say tonight, everything that we've learned. Let's take it and build on top of what we've learned so that we can continue to grow. All right. All right, that's all now. We're going to go ahead and say good night to you all. Thank you for joining us, and we pray that you were blessed by what you heard tonight.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.